Hey, welcome to Backyard Bows. I'm Brandon, and today we have an awesome product. I've been loving messing around with this one. So this is the Ghost Blind by Summit Outdoors. There's the Predator, which is this one, which is geared more towards archery. They have a Runner, which sits really low to the ground, a little bit more mobility maybe, and then they have the Phantom, which I think is geared more towards rifle hunting, crossbows, that kind of stuff. The Predator, it sits a little bit higher, gives you a little bit more coverage, has bigger slots in it for you to shoot through. So again, they gear this one more towards archery. This is the one that we're gonna review today. This thing has been out for a while, or they have been out for a while. I think this will be new to a lot of people, and that's why we went back and did this one, just because it's such a cool product. It's so versatile. I think it's such a cool tool to have into your hunting arsenal, especially for guys that are newer to hunting. You wanna hunt in many different ways, try to get as much experience and exposure as you can. I think this blind is one of the coolest products out there. Okay, so you can buy just the blind, has a couple handles that you can maneuver it around in. If you want to, they do have this cool backpack back here, and it protects the blind a little bit better. It allows you to carry it on your back so your hands are free to carry other stuff if you're hiking a little bit farther, but that's really cool too. It has a couple accessory pouches. There's a pouch for your extensions, which we'll talk about on the top, but that you can purchase separately. Okay, they also have a chair that comes with it, which we'll talk about in a second, because I think the chair is really important, but super easy. I mean, when I first got this in hand, I kept thinking like, you know, it was advertised as something that you could just set up on the spot, and I'm like, yeah, but you still want to do your prep to your set. You still want to get in there, set everything up, and then go back in and hunt. And like, once you get this thing in hand, you realize like, you can carry this thing in, you set it up in 5 minutes, you're good to go. You can kind of do your scout on the way in if you got crunch time, which is a lot of the time for me. I mean, I find a time to hunt, I get my little window, I get into my truck, I get to the property I want to hunt at. I've done a little bit of scouting, you know, and a lot of times I get a couple hours of daylight where I'm going to go in, try to climb in with my climber stand. Or now, this thing is just super easy to set up. So you want to open it up away from you, you pop it open. It will actually stand on its own, but I mean, you're going to want to support it somehow. So let's talk about the blind first. The blind, it looks like it's made of cardboard. It is not. It's made of these plastic flutes that run all the way through the blind, which allow it to be not waterproof, but allows water to drain through. You can actually wash it off if it gets dirty, muddy. The mirror reflector on the front gets a little muddy. But it's all plastic, so it's not going to deteriorate on you, because when I first glanced at it, I'm like, oh, this thing's made of cardboard? This thing's going to fall apart on me. It's all plastic. The mirror on the front, shatterproof plastic. You can, again, take a little hose, wash it off, take your hand, you get anything off on it if it gets dirty or whatever. But it's actually a lot more durable than you think, especially something like this that's going to be like situational utilized. It's not just something you're going to hunt with all the time. You're not just going to leave it in the woods, or I would, you know, find that pinch point somewhere where there's a couple short cedars. You realize like, oh man, there's nothing to climb in here. I'm gonna have to hunt out of a blind. I don't have enough time to set up a whole blind, brush it in. This thing is perfect. So again, it's like situational, which I don't think it's gonna get as much use to make it fall apart. I think it's just as durable as it is needed for as much use as it's probably going to get. So it has a little camo pattern on the backside, and then it has these reflectors on the front side. When you first get in, it's a little filmy. You want to take that liner off that's protecting it while it was shipped to you. Then you really see, oh, this is awesome. It's not as clear as a mirror, but you don't need it to be. This is the coolest part about this blind, obviously. The reflectors. It's 100 camos in one, 1,000 camos in one. Any situation, whether it be at the edge of a grass, cornfield, you know, brushed in the woods, wherever you are, it is just, you know, in the winter, in the snow, late season, early season, it's just going to adapt to whatever your surroundings are, which is so cool. It's a one blind for every property, every scenario, every season, all year round. And as you see in these next couple clips, if you do it correctly, and I'll give you some tips at the end, but if you do it correctly, this thing it's incredible. It's incredible. As you'll see, it faces a little bit down. They do that for two reasons. One, it's going to not reflect the sun. And then also, unless an animal is right up next to it, any critter that's far away, they're not going to be able to see the reflection, and it's going to minimize their movement. Okay, so it faces downward a little bit. And as I mentioned before, it does stand up on its own, but they're going to give you a whole bunch of little accessories that come with it. Okay, they're going to give you like tent stakes, camping tent stakes. Those will go in the holes in the bottom. Those will stake it down. They also will run to these strings that run behind and in front. Those will help give it support. Now, I'll tell you, every ideal situation, you want it to be as little as wind as possible when hunting. But occasionally you find yourself and you're out there, or wind either picks up, or you're like, hey, I think this is the day. I'm just going to go do it. I know it's going to be windy. This thing is, you know, It will be okay in the wind, but you have to do the extra work and support it. So you can actually run branches up, stick them in these holes right here, lean stuff against it, brush it in, whatever you may do. These can actually, instead of being staked in the ground, you can just tie them to a tree. I found myself in the woods supporting this thing in every other way than what they suggested. I would kind of mad lib it once I got into the scenario I was in. I just found different ways to kind of support it, but you want it to be as supported as possible because it is light, which is good and bad. It's good for carrying it in, but also that wind picks up, this thing's gonna kick around. It also comes with a couple bands in case you don't have the backpack and you just wanna carry it in with the handle. There's a couple bands that you can strap on top, bottom, secure it in while you're walking in and out. I threw a couple extra camp stakes, like tent stakes in my bag, because I'm gonna use all 4 of these. I'm gonna use the strings off the front, the back. I'm gonna get it as supported as possible. I think all together, to get it really, really nice and supported, it might've taken me 3 to 4 minutes. That's incredible. And when I first got this, that's kind of how it was advertised. And I was like, yeah, but you know, how easy is it really? It actually is. It's really easy. It sets up really quickly. You open it up, find the way you want to set it. And the more you use it, the more you look for the scenarios that it will do best in. At first, it's kind of, you know, you're going to have to try out different scenarios. But after I went in a couple of times, you're like, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to do. And again, a little tips we'll do at the end. So that's the actual blind itself. The bag is really cool. It's pretty solid. It's pretty nicely made, again, for the amount of use that it's going to get. It's actually really comfortable. It sits really high up. So it sits on your back really comfortable. Hiking in, it was like it wasn't even back there. The chair actually straps to the bag, which is also cool. So you can kind of have everything at once. Has 3 different accessory pockets for all your stakes, cables, stuff like that. I mean, anything else that you want to bring, it's nice to have those pockets. Now the chair. Okay, let's go over this chair. I think the chair is one of the most important parts. I have another chair that swivels inside, and I think that one probably is best. It's a little bit heavier, but it swivels, you know, so you're gonna be able to maneuver from one side of the blind to the other really well. And if you're new to hunting, you set up, you think you're gonna shoot through this slot, everything, there's the trail, you set it up, you know the deer is gonna come in on the left side, okay? You're gonna have to maneuver. You wanna be able to do that. So the chair itself is really nice for a couple reasons. I got a bad back. Sitting anywhere for a really long period of time kills me. It has a nice wide pad on the back, so for us bigger guys, it sets up nicely. Okay, it's well made. It has leather reinforcement on all 4 of the corners, or all 3 of the corners. It's constructed nicely for the price. The best part about this chair is the triangle seat. Okay, so if you know, you can get a nice wide stance for drawing your bow. It's also is easy to maneuver from one side, you know, to the other. Where if you have that square seat, it's a lot harder. Your legs get caught up. You're working around the corners. This one I found once I was in it, you know, you can kind of lean back. It just allows you, it was just really well constructed, I think, that goes with the blind. So I like the chair. If you're gonna buy the chair with the whole kit, I think it's a great purchase. Folds up really easily. Okay, has a little clip on it. You clip it on, you slip it into the pocket of the backpack, and you're ready to go. There's another accessory that I think is vital if you're gonna be hunting out of this with a bow, okay? And this is a must, and they sold it separately for a reason, so that you pay a little bit more, but do it, it's a must. They have these extenders, okay? And I think this extender is actually made for the Ranger. It's a little small for this one, but they sent it to me, so I'm gonna give you the picture, and really, they just slide in. They have these 3 little prongs, they slide in, and they're gonna extend each of these up higher, which you're gonna need for coverage. And if you're me, a bigger guy, I mean, you need this. That little 6 inches is vital to providing coverage for you, especially in close quarters. But these, you know, they'll come, a whole bunch of these, they come into a little pack. That pack slips right onto that backpack. Again, you can carry it all in. Okay, we talked about the versatility. So many different camo patterns, really cool. Mobility, really easy to get it in, set it up if you need to, same day. Love that. Durability, this thing is pretty solid, okay? I love that it's made out of plastic. It seems to be more solid than you would think at first glance. All right, so let's talk about hunting snares. And I always like to touch a little bit on little tips in case you're new to hunting. I think this thing is best utilized in a couple different ways. One, the woods. In the woods, in the deep brush, this thing under the canopy where there's not a lot of sun, this thing seemed to be almost invisible, okay? Something else that I realized once I got in there, it's only gonna cover half of you, okay? And really, as an archer, you're gonna wanna put that chair a little bit farther back and give you a little bit more maneuverability in the front. So the back of you is almost sticking out. What I found out that is I think is a great tip is you wanna set this thing up next to a massive tree. Okay, if you can get next to a big tree, that tree is going to provide you a whole nother quarter of coverage. If you can find 2 trees that you can back into, that's ideal. Another thing is you can brush the sides and back in. And I ended up doing it that way anyway. I would hang little pieces of brush out of these. I brushed it in just a little bit. It really made it give it more realistic look. But those 2 trees or 1 tree even, that really helps you get that coverage off of the backside. Because as I mentioned earlier, everything you plan and the vision that you have in the way that everything's gonna unfold, it never happens like that, or rarely does, you know, and something's gonna come in off to your left, give you a little bit more coverage, okay? Another tip, if you put this thing, if you're hunting on the edge of a cornfield or on the edge of a grassy field, wherever it may be, you need to get in, you know, 6 feet. You need to get into the field, you need to get into the corn a little bit, okay? If it's facing down, what's directly in front of it is what it's reflecting. So if you are on the edge of a grassy field, or you're on the edge of corn and there's dirt in front of it, what they are gonna see is a big blob of dirt, and you'll be able to see it once you mess around with it. So if you set up, make sure you go out, look at it, you'll be able to see. But if you back it up just a little bit off of that field or off of that edge into more of what you're actually sitting in, that's when it's gonna hide the best. Another thing, especially if you're new, this is a half blind, okay? But that's the best part about bow hunting, is it's just a little tougher, okay? You gotta be as steady and as stealthy as you could possibly be into this. You know, in every scenario bow hunting, you're not gonna wanna draw when something's looking at you. You wanna make sure that you're drawing when they're looking away and kind of reading the whole situation, but even more in a blind like this, because you are in the open. Now it's really cool that it reflects whatever camo you're in, but there's a lot of you that is above this blind, especially if you're as big as me. I like that the chair sat low to the ground. The one that I like to swivel, it even sits a little bit higher, but I love the fact that it swivels, so those extenders help, but you are up above ground, so you want to draw as stealthily as you can. But I love that you can move this thing in same day. You can hike in, find a spot, especially if you're stalking turkey. One of you has, you know, if there's 2 of you, one of you has the rifle, one of you has the blind, you can kind of sneak in and pop these things up almost anywhere just like that. Really cool. I can't wait to put this thing in the field. I have a pinch point at this farm that I've tried to hunt for years, and there's 1 tree, I'm real low to the ground. I kept trying to get up into it, and the one time I put up a blind, it just was a little bit too late into the season, which I should have known better. But I think this one is going to be perfect to kind of get in there, pop it up, set up right where I want to be, have the whole field out in front of me. Just really cool. I wish I would have got one of these a lot sooner. I can think of a million different applications where this would have came in handy in a lot of different situations in a lot of different places and farms. So if you have not checked these out, go to the links below, click on them. We'll put the links up for all of the accessories, all the different blinds. These are absolutely vital if you're a mobile hunter, okay? I have very little time usually hours of an open window to get in somewhere, get out. I use my climber stand a lot. I'm not allowed to go in and pre-cut, set up. Very little time even prepping on some of these properties. Most of my clients that let me hunt on their properties, they let me in for a little bit of time on a little bit of time of the year if I'm lucky. So having something that's so quick and easy to pop up, get in and out because I can't leave anything, these are awesome. You can't beat it. Ghost Blinds by Summit Outdoors, the Predator. This thing is killer.